Good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence, and thank you guys so much for being a part of our special broadcast this evening. We've got coming on in just some quick moment here. We've got Greg from Nyprepper that's going to be joining us this evening as we get into a discussion about a lot of the global events taking place. Originally, when I had Greg coming on, we were going to be kind of talking about all the different theaters that are going on globally around the world. But since I sent out the invitation, we had all the things that took place this weekend with Israel. So we're going to be starting off with that conversation and just kind of see where time allows us this evening, because we definitely want to, spend some time on that subject this evening and try to get as much information as we can, because this is an ever unfolding situation going on in Israel with the whole Hamas and Hezbollah things and everything like that. And so moderators this evening, if you could just keep an extra close watch on the chat room there. Usually when we get into conversations like this, typically invites people who, generally have different thought processes. So this evening, please, in the chat rooms, if you have a difference of opinion, that's okay, no problem. But be classy, be kind. Remember, we are all Christians and brothers and sisters in Christ, so let's act accordingly. If we can't do that, my moderators have been instructed to handle things as they see fit with my approval, and you can be removed from the chat room for the duration of this time. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Greg from Nyprepper. Greg, it is good to have you on. Thank you so much for taking your time out, because I know that you're busy. Matter of fact, as soon as this broadcast is over, you're going to be going live over on your channel tonight. So thank you so much for being on here tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to talking about all this.
Yes, we got a lot going on tonight, and so we're just going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid right off tonight. And of course, we all know what's going on in Israel. And of course, we did a video about 3 days ago. As soon as it happened, we put one out. We did it on Patreon. I didn't do it here on YouTube because I had a feeling if I did it on YouTube, we were going to have some problems. And so I didn't do it here. And so we put it on Patreon. And one of the things that I had kind of mentioned, this is where I'm going to start off, Greg, is with this, is there's been a lot of people have been speculating that what took place in Israel, of course, we all know Israel was invaded, Jerusalem was breached. We saw the atrocities with people, people being murdered, being not discriminated, but just being beheaded, the atrocities that we haven't seen since the Holocaust period. All of these things, we've seen these things unfold, the bombings. And some people have speculated that this was allowed by the Israeli government, that they allowed these people in, because we've seen photos of nobody at the borders. We see people bulldozing the fences and things like that down. But from one of the things that I had heard right as everything was taking place, was that the attacks that took place in Israel began from the inside out, not the outside in, is what's being portrayed. And one of the reasons for that, and it briefly came out for 2 seconds and then it went away. Nobody's talked about this. But like the United States, Israel was bringing foreigners in. They're bringing people in from the Gaza Strip. They're bringing non-residential citizens in, giving work visas, giving living permits, all these things. So they're residing in Israel during this time, and they come to find out they were spies. They were sent in to establish things, set things up. And this is why this attack was different than all the others, because it started from the inside, then worked its way outward. So if you think of that from a strategic point of view, and my personal opinion, is that if everybody's dealing with stuff from the inside, that draws any protection from the outside in, then it leaves it for those that may be waiting on the outside to come in. So that's kind of where my thought process is. That's kind of what I personally think happened, especially since when it came out, it was it was only off by 2 seconds, and then boom, they got rid of that narrative really quickly. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think I agree with your assessments. It is strange that somehow Israel, which has one of the best intelligence agencies in the world, was unaware of this attack. I find that a little bit weird. Why that is, I'm not 100% sure, but we can agree that it is weird that they weren't able to see this coming, especially Israel. They have the best, Mossad, and their military, they're top notch. So definitely weird. I want to mention a few months ago, you may remember the day that there were like half a dozen B-52 nuclear bombers that flew to the Middle East, and people saw them over Long Island. Maybe that was related to what's happening now. Maybe they knew that this was coming, so they were practicing for a bombing run on Iran or Syria or whatever. But you mentioned the threat from within, and that's very relevant to our country here, with our open border. I mean, it's not just now, but for years and years. I mean, they've been penetrating our border. I mean, it's been getting worse the last few, months and the last year or two, but the border's been porous for at least 10, 20 years, So I'm 100% certain that we have all kinds of sleeper cells in this country, from all different, Chinese, Russian, Iranian, jihadists, all of them are here. And I think, unfortunately, if things continue going the way they're going in the Middle East and things continue to escalate, they will be activated here. They're going to go after infrastructure. They're going to do random acts of violence. So I think it's important for people to be alert all the time. Anytime you go out in public, even places that you don't think that seem safe, be alert. Even the smallest town where you don't think something could happen, just always be alert. And if you have access and you can legally carry self-defense tools, I recommend everybody start carrying 24/7 outside of their homes. I know this is a Christian-based channel, but you do have a right to defend yourself, and I believe the Bible says thou shalt not murder. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the prophecy, but I don't think God just wants us to sit around and allow our families to be murdered. Basically, we have a right to defend ourselves. But in addition to the weirdness of how this whole thing happened, and how the intelligence agencies supposedly didn't see it happen, I find the timing of it very strange. We were just about to get a massive counterattack by Ukraine, and Ukraine was just about to get the long-range missiles, and Russia was running out of their missiles, and Russia was really slowing down on their offensive in Ukraine. They haven't been pounding Ukraine like they used to. Like over the winter, they were pounding Ukraine like every week with missile after missile. So that's toned down dramatically, and there's no doubt that Ukraine has a ton of losses in the war, but Russia also has a ton of losses. They've used a ton of equipment. They've lost a lot of tanks. They've lost a lot of missiles. And so Russia's hurting too. It's not just Ukraine that's hurting. They're both hurting. And I find the timing to be strange, that just as Ukraine was starting to make little gains, they were making little gains. They took out the Black Sea Fleet. They destroyed the submarine. They bombed the Black Sea Fleet headquarters with all the officers there. They were making small gains here and there. And now all of a sudden we have a front opening up in the Middle East, which to me, if you're Vladimir Putin, this is like the perfect chess move, because now the West has to focus on the Middle East. They cannot 100% focus all their attention on Ukraine. Now it's Ukraine and Israel. So that changes the game. especially if Syria gets involved, especially if Iran gets involved, then the U.S. is going to have to potentially strike Syria and Iran to protect Israel. So I personally believe, this is just my opinion, my gut feeling is that it wasn't just Hamas behind this. It wasn't just, there was multiple countries involved. I think it was, in my opinion, I'll just say it, brutally honest, Russia was involved, Iran, Syria, possibly China, possibly North Korea. I think all of them are basically teaming up. And I think what's going to happen is as they start to meet difficulties against the West, they're just going to keep opening up more fronts to spread us thin. So, like, for example, let's say Israel starts to win the war, and they start, whatever your definition of winning the war is, then maybe Iran is going to do something, or maybe North Korea is going to go into South Korea. So they have a lot of fronts that they can open up to match us. You know what I mean? Because even though we have a lot more resources and better militaries and all that, all they have to do is just open up another front somewhere else and spread us thin. So that's my opinion. I think that this was planned for months in advance. This wasn't just, as you mentioned, they were embedded for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They were probably planning this for months, if not years, because from what I understand, is this was on the 50th anniversary of the start of the Yom Kippur War.
Mm-hmm.
So they were probably planning this a very, very long time. I'm sure that all different contingencies were thought out. Like, for example, how they came in and they took all the hostages immediately, which is, actually, I'm not condoning it, but it is smart from a war point of view. If you take hostages, that gives you a bargaining chip. So now all they have to do is if Israel starts to go into Gaza, or America comes in and starts, bombing Syria, they just have to execute hostages. And that kind of, keeps us from really, cleaning house, So they planned it out. They have multiple layers of contingencies if we start getting involved. We're hearing now that Iran and Syria are threatening, and Iraq, they're threatening military bases that America has in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So it's,
yeah, and so a lot of what you're saying, and I understand, like, neither one of us are professionals. I don't know, I don't have a military background or anything like that. I don't have any, special people in CIA or FBI or anything in my back pocket. But some of what you've mentioned tonight has come to pass. We did get rockets that got launched from Syria, so there it is now a three front offensive in Israel. We also saw today that Egypt tried to bring in some foreign aid, or tried to bring in humanitarian aid to Palestine, to Hamas. That was derailed by Israel today. And so we do know that Egypt tends to be a little bit more sensitive to the Palestinian side of things. Of course, we had Lebanon that did their thing. And of course, it did come out that Iran, but through proxy of these groups, had helped in the planning of these things. It is very possible that Russia is also in this, just because of the stance that Putin allegedly is taking, according to what the media says. Right. He's taken his stance is that Israel needs to chill out. There needs to be a two-state solution. Of course, that's in the best interest of Russia if there's a two-state solution. We saw one of the things I had pointed out in the video that I did was that at the very beginning of all this, there's going to be a lot of sympathy for Israel. But as time goes by, people are going to start flipping the switch. They're going to start going against Israel, especially when we see what they're about to do. I mean, the bombs and stuff that we've been seeing on the Gaza Strip's not it. It's probably what they're going to be doing here this evening when they go.
This is the beginning.
Yeah, this is the beginning. They're going old biblical style, okay? If you guys don't know, if you don't read the Old Testament, what the Israelites used to do with their enemies, this is what they're doing. They're going Old Testament. they're going to take everybody out. The plan, from what I think, is they're going to remove Hamas from the face of the earth. They're going after the
Well, they
link.
said it. They
Yeah.
said it themselves. I want to mention that I think it was the defense minister or one of these generals in the high level general. He said that all the rules of war are out. That there's no more rules of war. That they basically said it themselves. I agree, and I think Israel is finally at the point where they've had enough, because I think Israel has been so patient with the UN. The UN always telling them you can't do this, you can't do that, and then when this massive attack happens, I feel like it's just like the final
Mhm.
straw. The straw that broke the camel's back. It was like, this is it. All that animosity, all the anger, it just boiled over now with this, and it's one of those situations where the Rubicon, I hate to use that word because it's so played out, but the Rubicon has been crossed and there's no going back. It's like you have a best friend, he comes over and shoots your dog. Are you ever gonna, it's something like that. You're not gonna just forget right away. It's just too much. It's beyond the point of return at this point. There's no negotiation. There's
Right.
no de-escalation. It's not going to happen. The Israelis are just going full bore, like you said.
Yeah,
So,
and I think once they see the world sees the end result of that, we're going to see everything sway away from
yep,
Israel, which is kind of starting to happen now because we had the European Union was actually going to withhold funding from the Hamas and the Palestinians, and they switched it today. They changed it, and they're going to continue the funding. So we've already started seeing the tide beginning to change with them. We see that China doesn't want Israel to do anything at all. They want them to They want them to pretty much go somewhere, sit down, and calm down. It's pretty much what's happened there. We saw that there was a peace deal that was going to be taking place with them in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is out as of now. That could change later, but they're out now. And so what was once the beginning of everybody really on board, it's already starting to change, and that change is going to continue as we go forward. And my personal opinion on this is that as we move into this, Psalms 83 in the Bible talks about this particular war. Then Ezekiel 38 talks about the war. It's two separate wars, though. Psalm 83 is basically kind of like the ring of fire around, which is the countries around Israel, which will all get affected. It's basically 10 coalitions coming together, which is what we're doing. We're seeing that happen right now. It's manifesting now. It will eventually lead to Ezekiel 38. And I sent you an article earlier this afternoon from End Time Headlines, where the administration there has not ruled out using nukes in this area. What's your thought
yep.
on this?
It doesn't surprise me. Like I said, I think Israel is just at that point where it's like, these attacks were so savage, and they're just at the point of no return. And it's easy for us on the outside to say, well, why don't they just relax, come to the negotiation table? But when you see, your neighbors, your kids, some of these videos coming out are just, it's just crazy, like just total barbarism, and it's hard to just come to the negotiating table and maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to bait the US into a war in the Middle East, and this was all part of the plan. So to get the US bogged down in a war, maybe get the US to use nukes, and then that would justify maybe Russia or China using nukes on their enemies, because then they could say, well, America nuked Iran, so we're going to nuke Ukraine, or we're going to nuke Taiwan, or we're going to nuke South Korea. Because I don't know if you saw my latest uploads, but I had to delete some of them because YouTube's very strict with these types of developing situations. And but basically, there's no easy way for the U.S. to demilitarize Iran. Iran is a massive country. They're like the size of Alaska, and they have a lot of hardened bunkers, massive bases, and a conventional strike is just not going to work. And they would need to, in order to neutralize, let's say, for example, Iran does get involved and we make the decision that we want to take out Iran, denuclearize them, demilitarize them, take out all their military, take out their nuclear facilities, it's not going to be like Iraq. This is a massive country. They have a huge military. They have bunkers underground. It's not going to be that straightforward. And in order for the U.S. to be able to do something like that, the only option at this point is basically a nuclear strike with low-yield weapons. And so if the U.S. were to do that, they would have to be a massive strike, because if they miscalculate and they don't take out all the targets at once, Iran is going to immediately attack our oil fields. They're going to attack Israel. So it would have to be a monstrous strike. And if we do that, then that's the justification that other countries need to use their nukes. You know what I mean? Because then Putin is going to be like, look at America. He already says it now, but imagine if we did that. Look at America. Look what America's doing. They're attacking sovereign countries, and you say we're barbaric. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very, scary situation, to put it, simply.
Right. When we were talking, it seems like everything is, interconnected, because basically, if you sit back and you look, it really just comes back down to the BRICS nations versus NATO nations. And at this moment, Israel appears to be the battleground. And you can maybe throw the Ukraine in there a little bit. I personally, from a political standpoint, I don't think the Ukraine was going fast enough like they wanted. But now we've got Israel in there, and that's going light speed. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so,
it is going light speed.
It's going light speed, And so I think whatever this agenda is that they're trying to put us in, whatever box they're trying to put America in, they definitely found a way to hit us using Israel as a proxy, and really, unbeknownst to them, throwing us into this into yet another prophetic timetable is what's happened here.
I agree.
It could come to a place where it will take America out of the center stage, because, like I said, my personal opinion is right now what we're seeing in Israel is Psalms 38. It's going to lead to Ezekiel 38, or I'm sorry, Psalms 83, which will lead to Ezekiel 38. When you get into Ezekiel 38, there's nukes involved. When you read the description of that's a nuclear thing that has taken place, and it looks like that nuclear thing that takes place is somewhere in and around Israel, or if not Israel itself. But what you'll notice is in that particular context, it's Russia involved, it's Iran involved, it's the countries involved. The United States is not involved at this period. It doesn't appear that we're not right now. We're there to help Israel. We've sent one warship. We got another one that's on its way. I think if it isn't there already by now, we're supplying them. We're at the aid, but this next go around, it doesn't appear we will be. So something has happened in the middle of that for us over here. Is it the personally? Is it the potential call to world jihad? And we're busy over here dealing with that because of everything that comes in. Did we implode due to our own politics? You had made mention how it's really interesting that all these things have kind of come together at the same time. We had the EMS thing last week. We had nuclear drills last week. We've got the ousting of our Speaker of House in the United States. We've got all these people. It's so much taking place that it can't necessarily be coincidence.
I agree 100%.
And I don't want to jump down the whole conspiracy trail or anything like that.
Right. But it seems odd, yeah.
But it just seems really, really strange. So, switching gears just a little bit because we don't want to take up all your time. So now that we have this going on in Israel, and the focus really pointed toward Israel, one of the things that kind of caught me personally off guard today, probably didn't you, because you focus in a lot on this, is we've got an alert set for South Korea for a potential attack from North Korea. You care to share the details of that?
Oh yeah, yeah. So the chiefs of staff of South Korea are saying that they're concerned that North Korea is going to basically do like a Hamas style attack that they did on Israel. But it's not just what the South Korean Defense Ministry said. We also know that North Korea said that they were going to release a statement very soon about something. And last night there was a ton of American recon planes in South Korea. There were like 4 American recon planes flying along the DMZ and different areas of South Korea, which is very unusual. And they're moving an aircraft carrier to the region, so it's going to be there on Thursday. So you got to understand that our military, they don't operate based on news like we do. They know things years ahead of time. They have all kinds of intelligence. They have spies embedded in North Korea. They have geospatial intelligence, satellites, all kinds of stuff. They can break into North Korean computers. I mean, they know when something's going on ahead of time. And so there's definitely some credible intelligence that would cause South Korea to be that concerned, and for the U.S. to move a carrier strike group to the region. It's not just the carrier, it's the whole strike group. So another thing that they're doing is they're bringing an Aegis destroyer. Okay. So normally carrier strike groups, they don't have Aegis destroyers necessarily. They can have them, but normally they don't come with them. They normally just come with like guided missile destroyers and stuff like that. So an Aegis destroyer, this was the red flag that really, for me personally, like really, made me concerned. Aegis destroyer is, imagine a Patriot missile system that's mounted on a ship, So they literally have missile interceptors on the warship, and they can put this warship anywhere around Korea, and it can intercept any missiles going into South Korea. They can put it anywhere. And the Aegis missile interceptors are better than the Patriot missiles. So they can intercept actually ballistic missiles to a certain speed, but they are more capable even than the Patriot system. They have a longer range and they go faster, so they can take out big missiles, So for the U.S. to move that into the region, in addition to the carrier group, is concerning. Also, thinking back to a few months ago, I remember when I was covering the story of, like, right after the new year, the South Korean defense minister requested from the U.S. to be involved with some kind of nuclear sharing program, kind of like we have with NATO countries. So, like, for those of you guys who don't know, we give our nukes to European countries. We have American nukes in Europe. And so South Korea basically wants American nukes in South Korea. And they were actually starting to do drills in like January, February. They actually already completed drills where the South Korean Air Force was practicing conducting nuclear strikes on North Korea with their F-35s and with U.S. bombers. They already did that. And if you remember about a month ago, I think it was one of the South Korean, it was either like the president or one of the generals. They basically said that if North Korea attacked South Korea, that they would be wiped out with nuclear weapons immediately. It would be the end of the regime right away. So something is going on behind the scenes for them to be doing these level of threats and preparations, in my opinion, So.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting us know that. And yeah, like you said, for the U.S. government to be sending more of our resources in that direction, especially with warships and things, there's definitely something going on there that appears to be of concern, other than what's already in that area, which is China and the whole Taiwan situation, which we definitely, before everything transpired this weekend with Israel, we were really seeing things ramping up over there too, where we had a military building up on the shores of China, facing Taiwan. We had the military drills, if you want to call it that, 50 or more warships surrounding Taiwan, with aircraft flying over Taiwan. And they were
Yes. Yep.
just getting ready to launch an even larger air campaign over Taiwan just before all this took place. I don't know if you knew that or not. You probably
I
did.
didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, they were just getting ready to do a much larger, using a record number of warplanes. They were going to start doing maneuvers and drills over Taiwan airspace just before all this went down. And so I don't know, if you want to dive into that situation, maybe give your own personal thought of what you think may transpire. I think a lot of our ideas and thoughts maybe having to go under review with the events of this weekend, but we can definitely give it a try there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember a few weeks ago, China was moving tanks to the port over there, one of the ports right across from Taiwan. There were actually videos that came out showing like tanks, like train loads of tanks going towards that port.
Mhm.
So that's a sign right there. Um, you don't just move hundreds of tanks somewhere for no reason, because you have to maintain those tanks. They can't just sit somewhere. You need to maintain them, just like anything else. So yeah, I think that it's possible that China could enter Taiwan as things progress with this war in the Middle East. And if North Korea goes and attacks South Korea, it's possible that North Korea attacks South Korea. It may not be like a full scale attack, like we think, like everybody always thought the nightmare scenario of another war on the Korean Peninsula. It could just be like a cross border raid, sort of like how Hamas did it, where they just kind of go in, destroy a couple things and then go back. So this way they keep South Korea on their toes, but they don't bring about a full scale response from the United States, because the U.S. will say, well, yeah, they bombed a couple of things here and there. We're not going to, annihilate the whole country because of that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so maybe they could do something like that, which would bog us down over there. And then maybe China could get involved. I think China's waiting to the very end until they see that there's a good chance that they can win, because also um, it's not going to be easy for China to take Taiwan. Even though China is so much bigger, they have a lot of men and all this. It's still going to be, if they try to go after Taiwan, it would be an extremely costly endeavor. I
Mhm.
mean, Taiwan, it's a small island, but it is an island. So to get to an island, you got to cross, open water. And Taiwan has all kinds of missiles that they've stockpiled for that situation. It's not like Ukraine, where Ukraine was only preparing for like 5 years for this invasion. Taiwan has literally been preparing since like 1950 or something like that. 60 years they've been stockpiling Patriot missiles, shore defense missiles. So it wouldn't be, the only thing that China could do that would be like a quick fix would be if they just like nuked Taiwan. But then what would be the point of doing that? There's no value in that. It's just,
Mhm.
a barren island, right? So for them to actually occupy Taiwan, and take it over, it's a big undertaking, geographically, getting the amphibious landing forces, just thinking about it logically and practically, you got to bring, 100, 200,000 men across 100 miles of ocean. That's not an easy endeavor. You got to bring the tanks and equipment along with all those men. Otherwise, they're just going to get slaughtered when they land. So they could potentially do like airstrikes or missile strikes, like Russia was doing on Ukraine over the winter, just taking out their infrastructure and things like that. Um, but so for that reason, I think China is waiting for the right opportunity, because they know it's not an easy thing,
Mhm.
So that, because it's not like Russia going into Ukraine. Ukraine is flat. There's no geographic barriers. It's all open farmland. There's no mountains. There's no water bodies. Taiwan is a totally different story. So, I think they're just waiting for the right opportunity, in my opinion. So I'm not concerned right now about Taiwan, like, imminent, like next week or something. It's definitely on the horizon, but I'm not concerned about it like happening tomorrow, basically.
Right, right. Yeah, it's and it's been projected. Some people have speculated that it could be at the end of the year, maybe the end of next year when we see this. But I don't know if China was quite expecting the whole Israel thing, because they were. I know China was really counting on that deal to go through with Saudi Arabia and Israel and the Abraham Accords, because they were involved in the Middle East, kind of flexing their muscle over there, needing those oil and those resources. So that what happened there, I think, kind of messed China up a little bit, and that's why, like as I stated earlier, they're really wanting Israel not to do what they're doing because of further de-escalation and kind of derailing their plans a little bit. So, China's got a big question mark as to what they're going to do next, and I have doubts that they're probably having all kinds of meetings over there trying to figure out their next strategy and how they're going to come in.
I think for China right now, they don't have to do anything because this is actually China. They don't have to. There's nothing forcing China to go into Taiwan. There's no imminent threat from Taiwan. Taiwan's not going to join NATO. The America's not going to start putting, missiles there or something like that. It's different than like Ukraine and Russia, where, there's no geographic barrier there. Ukraine is right next to Russia. It's not far from Moscow. They were afraid that NATO was going to go in there. For China, it's actually better for them to just sit back and do nothing, because they're actually gaining from this whole situation, because now Russia is begging for help from China. They need Chinese resources. They need China to bail them out economically. So for China, it's actually good. So if you're China right now, in my opinion, you don't have to do anything. There's no pressing need for it. Taking Taiwan would be obviously advantageous for them, but it's not like there's some immediate threat to their regime or their security if they don't go in right away or something like that. North Korea is different. North Korea, they feel more threatened, obviously, because you got a massive military presence in South Korea. So North Korea is different. Russia's different. But for China, they can just sit back and, reap the rewards of all the chaos, because all these countries are coming to China and begging for help now,
Right.
So it's a good business for China. So, but I agree. I think eventually in the coming months, something could pop off over there. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be prepared for that or that it could never happen. Anything is possible. I'm just trying to present an alternate point of view, basically, maybe something a little more positive,
Yeah, right. So it's good. Whatever you got to do to be positive, I guess. I guess I got two questions left. And my next one is with everything happening, let's just say in the next, let's just go a month down the road. Where do you see us on a global scale? Do you think that we may be in a full-blown World War III scenario in a month from now, or do you think things will maybe we'll get a pause in some of this? Where's your thoughts just from what you're seeing, looking at things from today?
I like doing interviews with you because you ask these very simple questions that a lot of people overlook, because everybody focuses on the day-to-day, the details, like, oh, Gaza got attacked today, or this village something's going on. But, the fundamental big picture questions are critical, and I'm glad you asked them. So in my opinion, I really honestly feel like we could be in a World War III scenario. I really think if anything, it's very likely, simply because of all the different countries involved in this war. And there's so many players. I mean, it's not just Iran and Syria, because you also have Russian bases in Syria. What if Israel launches a massive strike on Syria, and then Russia gets pissed off that, maybe some Russian bases were targeted? Or what if there's intelligence that Israel has that Russia is arming Hezbollah, that they're funneling weapons from Syrian, from those bases that they have there, or they're funneling it in somehow. What if Israel decides, let's take out a Russian base to show them, or whatever? I mean, it's there's just so many players involved here, and it's impossible for me to think that escalation is not possible. I mean, I would say it would be a miracle that there's no escalation, and I'm praying for that, but it seems like escalation is very likely, basically. That's my opinion. I don't mean to sound negative, but I just don't see any
No,
way around it.
I mean, I'm thinking of it, and I'm like, there's so many different avenues you can go, and it's like you said, no matter what avenue you go down, it equals escalation. Because if somebody de-escalates, someone's going to escalate. But yet, at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning of the broadcast, it's all intertwined anyway. Especially because of what you're really dealing with is Brexit versus NATO, and that's
Yep.
what it's coming down to.
Yep.
And so no
Yep,
matter
absolutely.
what war front you're on, like for example, North Korea and South Korea, Brexit supports North Korea, NATO or America, NATO countries support South Korea, Israel and Hamas or Hezbollah,
Right.
or whatever. NATO supports Israel. Every BRICS nations support Hamas. It's every conflict you see NATO versus BRICS. Okay, and it's really what it comes to. That's what makes all of this really connected, in my personal opinion.
Totally. It's a chess game. It's what
Yeah,
it is. It's kind of like, I look at it as like World War II, when you had the Allied and the Axis powers, right? You had, like Japan, the Nazis, and then you had America and, the other European allies. It's kind of the same thing as World War II. It's just that we're not at that hot phase just yet of, like total, war on all these different fronts, but it's coming, because the tension is there and the alliances are there. So yeah.
yeah. And so my last question here before I let you go because I know you're going to be doing a live over on your channel at
Hmm.
9:30. Is kind of bringing everything back home tonight. Is what if you had any advice for those that are watching tonight? How could one prepare for the things that are coming, from a physical standpoint?
Hmm.
Spiritually, I always tell people on our channel to pray, ask God for wisdom, and ask God for instruction. When He gives you that instruction, follow that, and that's your best way of survival from a spiritual standpoint. But I know on your channel, you take things more from a physical standpoint. You do a lot with survival, things like that over there. So for those of us that are here tonight, maybe not maybe majority of people don't have the finances to be massive preppers
Right.
or anything like that.
Right.
What are a couple of things of
Sure.
top priority could you tell the audience here to do to prepare for a lot of these scenarios that we've spoken about tonight?
Yeah, I think number one is finances are not critical. I think that, a lot of people, they see other preppers on social media and they have all this fancy gear and they have bunkers and all this, and they feel like, oh, I'm doomed. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have a bug out location. I don't have this. You have to just keep it simple, you'd be surprised how little you need to survive. When things really come down to the wire, you don't really need a whole lot. I mean, God made us to be tough. You know what I mean? We're tough. We're not, I mean, we're just domesticated now because of the way we've been living. We're so comfortable here in America and the Western world. But, you know, um, I would encourage people, number one, to uh, build up your knowledge. Knowledge is free. You don't have to spend money to educate yourself. Read books on survival, read books on, different topics. Just reading books, it will help you a lot. So that's free. That doesn't cost much. What, $5 or $10 on Amazon Kindle or something, and you can read in your lunch break, or you can, if you have to commute somewhere or you're driving somewhere, you can get an audio book and you can listen to different survival things. So knowledge is free and it never goes away. As long as you don't have some kind of traumatic brain injury or you use massive amounts of drugs, that knowledge is never going to go away. So knowledge would be very, very critical. Another thing too is your geographic location. It's hard for me to talk about everything in a short amount of time, but obviously, if you want to get away, from big cities. That's common sense. That you have massive amounts of people. So if there's any kind of bad situation, you have more people, and more people means more threats. Okay, it's as simple as that. When people are hungry, when people are thirsty, when their kids are thirsty and their kids are hungry, they're going to do whatever it takes to survive. If it means, killing you for a can of tuna, if they're at the point of, starvation, most people would, I don't know. I mean, maybe I have a kind of a negative view, but people will revert to animalistic tendencies in survival situations, when you get to that extreme level. So you have to keep that in mind. So get away from big population centers if you can. Move away, at least if you can get to like the outer suburbs. Even just living in the outer suburbs is much better than being like right downtown, especially for like nuclear war. Another thing too, because the Bible talks about nuclear war. Well, it doesn't explicitly say it, but we can kind of infer that there will be a nuclear war. You want to think about having as simple as having a residence that has a basement. Whether it's your apartment complex or your house. If you're shopping for a house or you're looking for a new place to rent, make sure it has a basement, because just going into your basement can reduce radiation by at least 50%, sometimes more, depending on how the basement is made and things like that. But a basement could literally save your life if there's a nuclear war. So that's a simple thing. Staying physically fit is important. You don't have to be a top-notch athlete. You don't have to be a record holder and whatever. Just stay fit, eat healthy, do some exercise, whatever you're capable of, depending on your limitations, whatever ailments you have. Don't push yourself too hard, but take care of your body, which is important too. Going back to the Bible, God said our body is our temple. We have to take care of it. So, I mean, in addition to being prepared, you're also pleasing God by taking care of your body, eating healthy, staying fit. That's really important. Cardiovascular is really important. Your cardiovascular health is critical for everything. It's doing cardiovascular exercise, even just like 30 minutes, a couple times a week or something like that, can make a huge difference in your health and multiple benefits from doing that. So, that's another thing. And as far as like, self-defense tools, you don't have to go crazy with like all the tactical stuff. You don't have to become Rambo. You don't have to become a Navy SEAL. Okay, just get, maybe I always recommend one rifle, one shotgun, and one sidearm, to start. And if you just do that, because you only have one of each, you're going to know how to use them very well, because you only have one of each. So you can dedicate all your efforts on that. And, spend some time in the wilderness. Even, you don't have to do like crazy survival challenges or anything like that. Just go for hikes on the weekends. It's number one, it's healthy. It's good for you. It's good for the spirit, getting out, getting away, getting the stress off. And you always learn some skills when you're out in the wilderness. You may not be starting fires every time, but just being out there, being used to being in the elements, get out of your house and be out there in the elements. And the more you do that, the more comfortable it gets. So when something does happen, it's not like you're just, oh my gosh, I haven't been in the woods in like 2 years or something. I haven't seen a deer in 5 years. It's like you spend some time in the woods and You don't have to do like crazy survival challenges, but maybe long hikes in the mountains. Go for like 5-10 mile hikes. If you have to bug out, that's going to come in handy, because you're training your body to have a backpack on, weight on your back, and going over difficult terrain, which a treadmill is not always going to do that for you, or running on a track, so hike in the mountains, even just like once a month, or more is even better. If you're close to the mountains, go every weekend if you can, couple hour hike, and you'll always learn something new every time you go. So that's just simple stuff that anybody can do. It doesn't cost a lot,
Yeah. Well, that's all good advice, and definitely doesn't cost money to do any of those things, which is good, because most people these days don't have any have money. It's with everyone spending $5,000 to $9,000 more on their budgets this year. So, but well, thank you so much for being on here. I don't want to keep you any
Thanks
longer.
for having me.
You got to get ready for your live, and so everyone. This is Greg from Nyprepper. His channel is in our descriptions list below. You can check that out. I saw that Cindy Lakes, 10,000 Lakes BC was putting your link up in the chat room there. So you guys go over to his channel there. He'll be on in about 30 minutes. I know his countdown's already running, and probably got a chat room full of people already. So you guys can go check him out here in about 30 minutes. He'll be on over there. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, spending a little bit of time with us, and just kind of brainstorming with me this evening as we try to trudge forward in this new world that we live in. So
yeah.
Thanks
for having me.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night. God bless you. And
thank you.
Yes, sir. And so everyone tonight, thank you so much. You can support Greg over at his channel. Like I said, links in our description box below. And so before we get off of here tonight, just want to let everybody know that tomorrow night we will have Pastor Talk here at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on Daily Excellence. We will be live with myself, and tomorrow night we're going to have our special guest back live with everyone. Charles Schott, he'll be in the studio with me tomorrow night, and we will continue our discussion that we started last week about what your life should be like after salvation. Of course, we'll take prayer requests, pray for everybody online, things like that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out our sponsor, EMP Shield. You can get $50 off of your device when you order your EMP Shield. Just make sure you use your promo code DAILY. You go straight to the website at www.emp.com. Go there, make your order, get $50 off. When you do that, you support our channel, and at the same time, you protect your home. It's very easy to install from our subscribers that have already bought it. They let me know, hey, it's easy to install. Protects your home from electromagnetic pulses. And so you may be needing that soon, so make sure you guys do that. Also, if you'd like to support our channel, you can do so through our Patreon and also our PayPal. Links in the descriptions box below. All right. Next week, Tuesday Night Live, we will have Paul and Adrienne from Off-Grid Desert Farming will be on with us, and Christine from her channel. The three of us will be on next week, and we will discuss current events, and hopefully, if nothing else crazy happens between now and then, we're hoping to get into the discussion about the millennial reign next week. So a little bit some positive, something to look forward to when we get through all of this mess is the 1,000-year reign when Jesus Christ will be on this earth ruling and reigning from Jerusalem. And so we're going to be getting into that topic and what life will potentially be like during that time. So a little bit of a positive message coming up next Tuesday night with you guys. And then the week after that, we got Brother Joseph from Revelation Station will be on with us as well. And so we look forward to working with him with that. So a lot coming up. Of course, we'll have premieres this weekend from CoT here on the channel, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So with that being said, everyone, have a great evening. God bless you, and we will see everybody tomorrow night here on the channel for Pastor Talk. So have a good evening, and God bless you. Bye, everyone.